week on Prepping 2.0.
So excited.
Not just because we're having a friend of ours on the show, a guy we really respect and talk to quite a bit, Forrest Garvin. Forrest has a new must-read book to plan out your preps. And I'm serious, we'll talk about that.
When disaster strikes, will you be prepared? This is Prepping 2.0 with authors and prepping experts Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. Online at prepping2-0.com. Get ready. Prepping 2.0 coming in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over here at Prepping 2.0. Always joined by my partner in life and partner and co-host on this show, Glenn Tate. Hey, Glenn.
Hey, we have a great show.
So excited.
Not just because we're having a friend of ours on the show, a guy we really respect and talk to quite a bit, Forrest Garvin. Forrest has a new must-read book to plan out your preps. And I'm serious, we'll talk about that. I was blown away last night as I was thumbing through this. I was like, oh my goodness. But anyway, he has a great new book out, and he's going to update us on PrepperNet, which is a preparedness community networking app, and also on his other venture, Sun Ovens. He's a very deep and diverse guy. But before we get into that, we have a few quick items.
Awesome. So we always like to talk about who wishes that they were prepped.
People in Texas.
But we're going to use the list from the folks in Bosnia in the 90s who survived the Bosnian collapse. Top 100 things that go the quickest in a collapse. You can find the list on our website, prepping2-0.com. By the way, that's the website where all things Prepping 2.0 universe is. So number 5 this week is lamp oil, wicks, and lamps. Lots of people, not only in Bosnia, but Texas and the Midwest, wish they had some of those items in their stash so that they could see.
A quick note about that. I think there will be virtually none of these things left in the United States for the next year or so, because I think everybody and their dog has either bought them or ordered them or something like that, so they may be hard to get. A couple alternatives, and I think the lamps that are mentioned are very, very good. A couple alternatives are those awesome old school Coleman lanterns that run on the small 1 pound canisters of propane, and they give off a little heat too. And then not a petroleum product thing, Surefire makes these great lanterns that run on 3D batteries that are magnificent. Lurkers come out of the shadows. What do we mean by that? Lurkers are folks, the many, many people that we love who listen to us on the radio or through iTunes or something. They listen to the regular show, the 52-minute show, and they always hear us talking about the after show and video bonus shows and all this other cool stuff, and they don't have access to that because they're not Patreons, so they lurk. And then they wonder, what it's all about. I would like to read you an email I received from a lurker. This is from Jessica. She said, came out of the shadows and it feels so good. After listening to literally all your episodes, I finally gave in, and man, is it worth it. Love the KHNC shows and the video bonus shows. P.S. We love the I Miss America blend of Minutemen Coffee and Backwoods Home Magazine. Could you capture more awesomeness in one short email? Not possible.
They might be elevated to like the number 1 fan right there.
That's right. So we wanted to let you know, please become a Patreon member, $2 a month or more if you want. You get the after shows, you get all this other amazing cool stuff. You get to ask questions of our guests, all kinds of amazing things. It's very, very cheap. And every single week we have a couple dozen people who were lurkers coming out of the shadows. And that's what we love. Well, fanfare, everybody. Pam Radio. Practical,
Woohoo.
Prepper, amateur radio, the electronic flashcards are still going strong. Forrest is going to talk about them in a moment when he comes on. These are the flashcards that in about 45 minutes teach you the practical, not the FCC license stuff, not the technical stuff, no equations, no math, no technical jargon, I promise. And the reason is I'm dumb and I hate all that stuff. So when I decided to create these electronic flashcards to teach people the prepper stuff, the practical stuff they needed to know, I didn't go into the gobbledygook because I don't get it and I don't even like it. So I'm basically putting these cards out for people like me who just want to know how to use their radios for prepper purposes. And that is at PAM-radio.com. preparedness.com.
And of course, we can do the show without our sponsors. And so we want to give a quick shout out to, first off, Emp Shield. Great folks over there. They have created a device that when you connect your devices, specifically your home or your car, to it, it will protect those things from an EMP or a CME, coronal mass ejection.
Yay!
I did it.
Yes, we got the acronym.
So in the words of my kids when they were toddlers, I doed it.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you go over to prepping2-0.com, click on Friends and Affiliates, and click on their logo, and if you use the coupon code Prepping 2.0, you get $50 off each item.
And a ton of listeners have been doing it.
Oh,
and
my
not
goodness.
one single person has said, boy, I regret having my car or home generator or home protected from EMPs and CMEs. Well, let's get into it. Now we're going to have Forrest Garvin up. He is the hardest working man in the preparedness industry. Yes, I coined that motto, and I want it to stick because it's true. He's too modest to admit it. He is the hardest working man in the preparedness industry. He's written 3 nonfiction books, one of which is the Preparedness Roadmap that we'll be talking about today and raving about because it's fabulous. And he also created the PrepperNet preparedness networking website. And why not do another thing? He owns Sun Oven, which is a great way to cook food without, any on-grid power supply. So with that...
Specifically using sunlight, which is awesome.
Exactly. Solar oven. So with that, welcome, Forrest.
Hey, thanks for having me, Glenn and Shelby.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Let's dive right into the questions. First, we'll focus on the Preparedness Roadmap, a link to which is in the show notes. And I highly recommend folks go and click on that. Seriously, we have a lot of great authors and we talk about a lot of great books. I am a huge fan of the Preparedness Roadmap. Forrest, why don't you describe why you wrote it?
Okay, before I get to that, if you don't mind,
No, not at all.
Glenn, I just want to tell you that myself and the whole PrepperNet family are praying for you.
Thanks.
And what you've gone through and you're going through and will continue to go through. You're on our minds. You'll be feeling the love from PrepperNet here for the next month or so because you've done a lot of things for PrepperNet. And even if it's just keeping me calm in some situations when things are going on or talk through some things that PrepperNet's doing, you and Shelby both are on our expert panel and you're assets to PrepperNet. And we love you guys and we'll continue to pray for you guys as well as y'all go through this battle with colon cancer.
Thank you so much. And I'll say it to other people, even if you're not a PrepperNet person, and you ought to be, by the way, but if you're not, prayers are gratefully accepted. I don't want to scare people and make it sound like there's a very bad outcome that's likely. The outcome statistically is very good. And so I don't want to scare people, unlike the blue state governor who canceled my colonoscopy and created this problem for me and tens of thousands of others. But hey, that was another show. But prayers are greatly accepted. Shelby and I have been absolutely just blown away at all of the prayers and the well-meaning and the encouragement we received. Please send us an email and tell us how you feel. And that's glenntate123@gmail.com. Glenn with one N, glenntate123@gmail.com. And of course, Shelby is part of this too. She's been an amazing asset, and she needs to have encouragement and buoying and prayers. And so she is Shelby Gallagher 321@gmail.com.
And let me jump in here on that. I want to just give a quick thank you to all of you who have emailed us. Unfortunately, in all of this, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm still working through all of this. And
as in employed outside of the home?
I go to work every day. So I get your emails. I will say this. I get your emails when I have breaks and lunch breaks throughout my day, and I read them, and it buoys me. The sad part of that is I don't have time to answer every one of you, and I wish I could. And some of your stories... I sit there and think, I think this always happens where I think it's bad for me, and I don't think it's that bad, honestly. I think we've had some good outcomes come out of this. And some of you have weathered amazing things, and your stories to me boost me and they buoy me, and my prayers are to you. And I'm telling you that now because I can't write that back to you in every single email, and I'm getting choked up. Some of you are just pillars of strength for me, and thank you so much for all of your emails.
We're going to get a chance in a few weeks or whenever, who knows, to go through and answer every single one of these. We're reading them, and we're going to answer every single one of them. It might take us a while, but thank you for all the prayers and the encouragement. So thank you, Forrest, too, for unleashing the prayer pipeline from PrepperNet.
Yes.
I mean, gladly accepted. Well, let's get back to the question. Tell us why you wrote the Preparedness Roadmap.
So when I first started doing a podcast, I think some of the
Tell us your podcast now, Forrest. You're so modest.
It's called Prepping Academy.
Yep.
It's very mediocre.
No.
It's not as professional like you and Shelby, but I do my best, you know. And so, but I started this preparedness thing. I wanted people to get information, and we attacked it from three aspects. One is the person that is listening to the podcast was a brand new prepper, and we attacked each, and we were going to go through a year of someone becoming a prepper. I mean, you know, first you got to define what a prepper is and some of the things, and you know what people think of preppers. We go through all that, but as I map it out over a year, and usually in 2 months increments, and I literally tell people what to buy. I mean, the exact model number and everything. And I tell people what they need to learn. So when you buy, you know, Flint, you need to learn how to use it. And I give you actual real things to do and accomplish during that time frame. But then I also cover a thing called mindset, because you can have all the tools and you can have all the skills, but if you don't have the mindset to get through, you know, a situation, or, you know, a crap hit the fan situation, none of the tools or skill set matter. And so some of the mindset things are reading books, watching videos, get you thinking. Some of them are just listening to, you know, Prepping 2.0 podcasts. Some of them is reading your books. Your books are listed in there. So it covers three aspects. It's not just just go and buy this stuff. It's buy this stuff, learn how to use the stuff you bought, and then learn. And then as you're doing this, you're learning some mindset on how to deal with situations or that could come up. That way, when you're in a new situation, you know, you go, wow. I mean, you can literally go through and go, wow. I remember in Glenn Tate's book when, you know, they were, you know, getting ready to get the food and, you know, and all this stuff. And Glenn brings out the pancake mix and everyone was happy. And because I love your pancakes in there. But so it gets you thinking. And so it's kind of I called it the Preparedness Roadmap, because anyone can jump in and for a year and, you know, be somewhat prepared at the end of the year.
Right.
And before I'm going to tell people in a moment here why I absolutely specifically love this book, but before we do, I wanted Shelby to give a shout out to Jared Savick, our Montana realtor friend, and all the stuff he can do. If you're thinking about relocating from a blue state to a red state like us, then you need to get a hold of Jared. So take it away.
We had him on a guest recently. You'll remember what show number more than me. I'll let you think about that.
About 102.
Yep. So basically, he and his beautiful wife are realtors in Kalispell, Montana, but don't let that dissuade you. They're preppers themselves, and they have a pretty good idea what it takes to have a good prepping property. So whether you want something turnkey, ready to go, or something to build yourself, they have properties in town in Kalispell, out of town, and then way out of town. They have built up a network of fellow realtors, great prepping, conservative-minded folks. Best way to reach them is seizethedaymontana.com. Let me give you, there's a special secret sauce in that website, seizethedaymt.com. Their contact information is there. Tell them Glenn and Shelby sent you.
The link to Seize the Day MT is in the show notes. I want to emphasize a point about Jared, and that is he can find properties throughout Montana, and as Shelby mentioned, the network of other cool Patriot Prepper relocation-minded realtors throughout all the cool red states. So a great first call is our point with that. Well, here specifically is why I love the Preparedness Roadmap. A lot of folks out there probably looked at reading the Bible as a daunting task because it's kind of long. And there are so many things out there that are like the Bible in a year, right? 365 days through the Bible, those sorts of things. So you take a big thing, a big topic that seems kind of daunting, and you break it down into 365 days into bite-sized pieces, and then you can get through it. Now, the Preparedness Roadmap is not like day 72 and day 212. It's not broken down into 365 days, but the same concept applies. And it, as Forrest mentioned, and this is brilliant, Forrest, it was, here are the first 2 months, here are things to buy, here's pointing people towards the right direction. So it's taking a big topic and turning it into something doable, which I love on any topic, but I especially like it on preparedness, because preparedness is one of these things where you can get overwhelmed, especially if you're new. This book, The Preparedness Roadmap, is a must-read, especially for new preppers. And even if you're intermediate and upper level, there's tons of stuff in here you didn't think of, so it's still good for that. So if you are approaching this big, huge project of how do I prep, and you go, golly, that's going to be hard to do, Preparedness Roadmap is good. And here's another thing I love about the Preparedness Roadmap. As you guys know, Shelby and I are always talking about how to persuade either sort of lukewarm spouses, they're lukewarm to this, or they're reluctant spouses. A book like this to somebody that you need to convince that preparedness is actually doable, they're going to look at this book and go, I totally get this now. So that's why I love it.
Well, and I'm going to throw this in. I know, Forrest, I want you to comment on that. One thing that Glenn and I do on social media, we are members of all these little prepping groups, these little groups on social media. And it's cool to see two things. And then one thing is discouraging. The first one is in all these groups, the influx of new preppers since COVID started, and the influx of new preppers as they see kind of things fall apart, and
Biden and Texas
riots and burning of buildings and lawlessness. They're prepping, which is great. So we have these new preppers that are curious and want help, and they're ready to go. So in other words, they've been converted, and then they do something like ask a question like, how do I make clothes out of
animal skins?
And Glenn and I are like, great question. It's a newbie question, because if you're doing prepping right, that should be like number 150th on your list of things to learn, really, truly. But so and someone like that, I just want to like mind meld this book to them. So that, because I know what's happening to new preppers is that they don't know how to prioritize what they need to do. And so I want my first question to that, there's several in there, I realize, is have you seen a huge influx of new preppers because of 2020? And I realize there's new preppers, but there's also seasoned preppers. And how does this book fit for all kinds of preppers?
Well, great question. So I've seen a huge, in PrepperNet, we've seen our numbers double. It's been crazy. Our growth, we have over 60,000 members now. We have meetups in 93 cities and 6 countries around outside the United States. So we've been growing. And this book is systematic, meaning you don't go out the first day and buy an AR-15. The first month, you're doubling your pantry. You guys have been talking about food. You just double your pantry. It's simple things. You get batteries. You just get things that will, you kind of grow into prepping. You don't just go out and buy an AR-15 and ammo and then go start shooting. You need to learn how to shoot. You maybe take a gun safety class. And that's the same way I went through this, is it's step by step. So it grows on each other. So there's some months that is mostly learning and some buying, and other months it's, it is time to buy that AR-15 or some solar panels so you can, you recharge some of your items and get into ham radios. So it takes you through the journey of when I started prepping, the first thing I bought was almost a $400 water filter. And it's a great water filter. Don't get me wrong. But that same water filter nowadays I can buy for $14. And I just didn't know better. This was back in, 2000. I just didn't know better. And so, and as I've been going through this with PrepperNet and on my show and speaking, everyone really wants to go, they want to know the answer but they want to know, just tell me, Forrest, what should I buy? Don't just tell me, go get a water filter, or don't go get a ham radio. Just tell me which one to buy, because I trust you. I trust your experience and your knowledge, and it will save me a lot of pain and heartache. And I'm like, wow, that's what I need to do, is tell people what I would buy if I needed this particular item. And that's why I list it. And there's a companion PDF that goes with the book that you can go on to my website. It's in the book. And every item I mention is a link to it. And you can go and purchase it, or you can just review it and purchase something else. But I wanted you to see, or people to see, exactly what I was talking about when I said, go get a flint and steel. I wanted everyone to know which one I bought that I've, researched that works best for me.
Well, and I wanted to mention, you mentioned your website. You're such a modest guy, and I appreciate that. I'm going to give out the website. Actually, why don't you give out the website? It's in the show notes. But when you say there's a PDF like this and it's on the website, people need to go on your website and get it. What is your website, Forrest?
You say I'm humble, but yet the website is my name. So how humble can that be?
Nice.
At least it's your real name.
Forrest with 2 R's, like Forrest Gump. Yeah, I know, I get it. Forrest Garvin, GARVIN.com, just forrestgarvin.com. And that's where I have my 3 books. I have a link to Sun Oven, to PrepperNet, and the download as well.
That's awesome. So let me jump in here really quick. I want to just take a quick break there while everyone grabs a pencil or pen and writes that down. Also want to give a quick shout out to another one of our awesome sponsors, Katie Armor. Great folks over there have created body armor for people, not military, normal everyday people. And when I watch what I've seen in 2020, and I'm sure it's going to start up again here, summer season 2021, some of the violence that I see on the streets, body armor is a good idea. Encourage you to go over to Katie Armor. Again, you can go to our website and find it there. Use the coupon code GRANT. Think Grant Matson out of the 299 Days book series. Get 10% off. They got behind a little bit last year.
And I've been getting a lot of comments from listeners that orders have been shipping. It takes about 3 weeks, but I think the backlog is over. And by the way, it's Come and Take It Armor, so it's CATI armor.com. It's not Katie like a girl I knew in the 3rd grade.
Well, and I also come and get it while you can. Some of the things going through our Congress right now may not allow us to get that for much longer. So love those folks over there. So we have just a couple more minutes. Forrest, what are your other 2 books, really quick? I think we mentioned them, but just so people know them.
Let us know what the books are, and we'll talk about them more. But I want to let folks who have the pen out, because they wrote down Forrest with 2 R's, Garvin.com, they can write down the names of your other 2 books. And you got about a minute.
Yep.
Okay. Well, first of all, Katie Armor's good friends with PrepperNet as well.
Good.
Love them guys as well. I have some Katie Armor myself, so I wanted to throw that in there. It's great people over there, and they're a member of PrepperNet. And so my first book was called The Case for Christian Preparedness, and that was written for really believers that sit on the pew and they don't prep. Because I go through what the Bible states. When the Lord tells you something's going to happen and you don't do it, there's consequences. And if you do it and you obey the Lord, there are consequences as well. Guess which one's better?
That's right. And Forrest, and what is the second book? And we'll be talking about this more later.
Okay, it's called Stand Firm to the End.
Awesome. We have so many more questions for Forrest, specifically about his latest book, Preparedness Roadmap. Don't go away, folks. We'll see you after the break.
More Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher is coming right up. Hear all our previous shows free online at prepping2-0.com.
PrepperNet, where preppers unite. Looking to meet other like-minded people in your area? Looking to start your own prepper group? Already have a group? Join PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet has gathered the biggest names in the industry to help unite preppers everywhere. Join John Jacob Schmidt, Scott Hunt, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, Glenn Tate, Shelby Gallagher, Charlie Hogwood, Samuel Culper, Survivor Jane, Rick Austin, Franklin Horton, Ryan Mitchell, and Brian Duff. Our team is united. Check us out at PrepperNet.com. PrepperNet, where preppers unite. PrepperNet.com.
Shelby Gallagher here. We found that you need to layer your food preps.
Yeah, this is Glenn Tate here. A lot of times the hardest part of layering is the long-term foods. We love Numana foods, which have a 25-year shelf life and are non-GMO. Also, organic meals are available.
Numana comes in family-style portions and in bulk. This is not backpacking food. It's family meals that last for at least 25 years. The perfect freeze-dried part of your food layering.
You can get a sample of Numana meals for $19.95 and see for yourself. You will be amazed.
Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount by entering the code PREP.
Go to Numana.com or click the link on the Prepping 2.0 website.
Give it a try. Numana.com. That is Numana.com.
When the grid goes down, darkness will descend fast. Used to be there was nothing you could do about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse, or CME, coronal mass ejection. Now you can protect your electronics, protect your family, thanks to Emp Shield. Emp Shield invented a simple-to-install device that prevents whatever's connected to it from frying in an EMP or CME, and it costs just a few $100s. Emp Shield has been tested by independent laboratories and passed muster with the government, which has ordered lots of them. Google Emp Shield and see for yourself. And save some money. Get a $50 discount per device. Go to prepping2-0.com. Click on the Friends and Affiliates page, then click on the Emp Shield logo. At checkout, use coupon code PREPPING2.0. It's all one word.
Abe Lincoln here. In 1773, patriots broke the chains of British tyranny by throwing tea into Boston Harbor. On that day, Americans began drinking coffee. We celebrate that event daily here at Minutemen Coffee. All men are created equal. Coffee is not. Minutemen Coffee is roasted to perfection in small batches. Bold, smooth, and never bitter. Shipped to you fresh daily. Whole bean, ground, or our patented pods. www.minutemencoffee.com.
Prepping 2.0 is about that next level of prepping. One of the key 2.0 items to have is bulletproof body armor plates. I used to think body armor was too tactical for a regular guy like me, but it isn't. Give yourself, your family, and your team an unfair advantage when bullets are flying. Body armor used to be expensive and hard to get. Not anymore. KD Armor, and that stands for Come and Take It, makes solid and affordable body armor for normal people. Get body armor while you can. The clowns in Congress are trying to prohibit future sales. KD Armor is the place to get it. CATI armor.com. Prepping 2.0 listeners get a 10% discount when you use the coupon code GRANT.
Now, more of Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Shelby Gallagher over here at Prepping 2.0. We have our guest today, Forrest Garvin. And before we had to take a quick break, we were kind of summarizing all of the books that he has written. He's written 3. And I want to just remind folks, I think this is so cool. We did a show with him when his book on the Christian case for prepping came out. It was show number 42. Back in the old days.
August 7th, 2019.
Back before 2020, the disaster known as 2020. So it's interesting reflecting back. And I remember when we did that show, how I was impressed by what Forrest just said before the break was, God tells us something's coming. He won't tell you necessarily what it is, but there's generally an ominous tone with it. And then he'll say to you, be prepared.
One of the things, Forrest, and please elaborate on this.
Yes.
One of the things I love about your book on the Christian case for preparedness is you made a very specific point to say that you ran this by real theologians. And that's important because so much of the Christian information we get sometimes has really soft, erroneous, misleading theology behind it, and that's actually worse than people maybe not even hearing the message at all because it misleads them. There's a lot of phonyism out there. So describe how you basically had theologian reviewed content in this, and who did that reviewing, because it's an impressive guy.
Okay, so one of the fears that I have, and everyone should have, is misquoting God or his Bible. That's just something you should fear every single day of your life. And so as I was putting this book out, I wanted to make sure a mentor of mine, someone I've known for years, has since passed away. And he's not even in this arena. But his name is Norman Geyser. He was one of the top theologians of our day. He died probably a year ago or so. But both my books, The Case for Christian Preparedness and Stand Firm to the End, he and his right-hand person both went through both these books to make sure that they were theologically correct. And because I would hate to put something out and be accountable for that. But The Case for Christian Preparedness I was in the church, and people always would say, I'm going to just trust God. I'm going to just trust Jesus. And that kind of, when you say that, what you're saying is, that's a great thing. You can trust God and trust Jesus. But then I would come back and go, you can trust God and Jesus, but you can also be disobedient. And they look at me with the weirdest thing ever. I said, well, just imagine Joseph. When he interpreted the king's dreams about there was going to be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. Just think if he would have taken the attitude, you know what? I got a great relationship with God. I'm going to just trust God. He didn't. Nowhere in the Bible or nowhere did God say, Joseph, put food back while you have plenty. Joseph used his own brain and his own common sense and said, wait a second. God told us this for a reason, not so we could suffer, but so we could get through it. And so Joseph, petitioned the king. They started putting food back, and the Bible literally credits Joseph for saving all the people of the land from dying. And so that's kind of what I do in The Case for Christian Preparedness, is go through the Old Testament and look at people that were given wisdom and they acted on it, and you can see the results. Now, in the book Stand Firm to the End, I move over to the New Testament. This isn't Revelation and beyond or anything like that. I love talking about that, but that's not in this book. Right now, we're in a period of time, according to the Bible, it's called the end of days. As soon as Jesus died and rose, the end of days started, and it stops. Here coming soon, but God tells us what is going to go on through the end of days. He tells us events. There's going to be famine. There's going to be, wars. There's going to be, and it's going to earthquake, and it's going to multiply to the point that it's going to be unbearable for almost all of us. And so what I do with that, I said, God tells us what's going to happen. What he says comes true. He doesn't tell that to us to warn us, really. He tells us that, well, he does in a way to warn us and to be ready for it. And so if I know there's going to be earthquakes, it'd be crazy for me to live in a high rise in California. That would be because God would go, hey, I warned you there would be earthquakes and your building fell down. What the heck? And so you take practical knowledge of what God's warned us that's going to happen during this period of, the end of days, and then you act on it and prepare for it so that you'll be a good and faithful servant when we get through this.
There's a great Southern phrase, and it appears in a Johnny Cash song, which is how I heard it. And it's really apropos here, and it is, he's so heavenly minded, he's no earthly good. Mm-hmm. And there are some people out there, and they might even be listening, and I'm challenging them. I'm speaking to them right now. If you think God's just going to take care of stuff, I would like to introduce this suggestion to you. I think you're being lazy. I think you are avoiding something you don't want to do. You wouldn't say the dogs are barking, God's going to go walk the dogs. I mean, you have a role in this. And another way of looking at this in a slightly different way, the Bible says, and I'm paraphrasing because like you, Forrest, I don't want to misquote things. Essentially, the line is that God provides even for the little birds. Well, here's the thing. He does indeed provide for the birds, but he does not drop the worms in their nest. So God providing for us means warning us, telling us it's important, and creating the conditions that allow us to do the things that God wants us to do. Because you mentioned Joseph and 7 years of famine. And it's not like he said, hey, Israel, the FEMA trucks are going to drive around and bring us sloppy joes and, tater tots. So I think really some of the preppers out there who might be so earthly minded, they're no real world good, no practical good. They need to really hear what we're saying here, because I would hate to lose anybody, especially good Christians out there who believe the right things and are good people, but don't expect the worms to be delivered to your nest. And this book that you wrote is all about that.
Well, you got to trust and obey, and it's both. It's not just one. And also, if you don't mind me sharing, but there are preppers out there as well that they don't trust or obey, and you want to be prepared. You better be prepared for what God has coming as well. And that's maybe opening up your Bible and maybe reading and seeing what God has in store for you, because you can prepare to go through Armageddon and survive, but in the end, it's not going to end up good for you unless you know the true story.
Absolutely. Let me jump in here and say something else that's
a little more earthly.
A little more earthly that's really good for you, and that's Minute Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
God wants you to be happy with coffee. It's not in the Bible.
No, it's not. It's not. But it is. I'm going to tell you right now, Minute Coffee is pretty awesome stuff. They carry exclusively the I Miss America blend. Encourage you to, again, check it out on our website, Friends and Affiliates tab. Use the code I Miss America at checkout and you get 15% off your order. The other really good one, Backwoods Home Magazine. Love those folks. I always say every time I get one of their publications, it's like they were reading my mind. There's an article there and an article here that I've been thinking about and how to kind of integrate into my preps. If you go over and get a subscription there, use the code 6, use number 6, the digit 6 off, and you'll get $6 off.
Absolutely. Well, Forrest, any other thoughts on the Christian case for preparedness? And if not, tell us about your second book.
Well, Stand Firm is the New Testament. I went over that just a little bit right there, but Stand Firm is what we're going through now. It just helps people see what's in the Bible, and that God doesn't want us to go through all the things He warns us about. He wants us to be prepared for it. So.
Yeah, it's simply put, and it's a pretty short book, and it's very easy to read. And so don't worry, out there, it's not an 800-page book written like the King James Bible, he spaketh and what dost thou do? None of that stuff. This is really clearly written to just convey the ideas and not, try to act all fancy with your old English language. Yeah, Shelby.
Correct.
Well, and all of these books, they're companion books too. It sounds to me like they build on each other, which I love. So if you're a Christian, you now have a Christian case and how to stand firm in that. And then you have the Preparedness Roadmap. I am not kidding. I'm going to tell you this right now. That whole how to get prepared in a year, the chapter that you have on that just spoke to me. So how do you feel about that? Are they good companion books? Do they build off of each other? What do you think?
Well, absolutely. So the first two books, you can look at them and you can read them yourself and go and get motivated and kind of, get kind of God behind what you're doing. But also I really kind of wrote them. There's an underlying reason I wrote that. And it's because I wanted to give that to people that are sitting on the church pew that aren't preparing. And everyone says, well, how do you talk to people about preparedness? You give them this book, and I'm telling you, it's going to shake their thinking up. And I would say at least hundreds. I don't know how many, but over the life of the books, people are like, I gave this to my pastor. I gave this to my friend. I gave this to whoever. And it really, one lady actually says she gave it to friends without even reading it. And she noticed the change in her friends about preparedness and getting things together. She thought, oh my gosh, I need to read this book. And so because it motivates people. And then the Preparedness Roadmap is a first step. Hey, if you want to get prepared, here's the basics of it. But the basics is you do have to buy things. You do have to learn skills, but you got to be ready for the mindset. And I'll tell you, the mindset in this, I tried to stay away from so much because I'm not going through with Bible passages in the mindset. It's like watching, a movie, watching a show, so you can think about scenarios that were brought up. And you guys know this, even when I was reading Glenn Tate's books, which is the first series I've ever read in this arena, and I loved them. And that's where I have a lot of pancake mix. And I know I say that all the time. It's funny because that stuck out to me going, oh my gosh, you need things in your survival, in your group that brings back some normalcy. And things that you love. This isn't all just eating beef jerky and filtering water.
Right.
And so that's what the mindset is. So they do work together.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I have another book in me. I mean, this is all. I mean, if you turn to the first page and it was blank, that's all I knew 20 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, and so. They've been a blessing to me, and I just thank the people that have supported them.
Well, and I'm gonna kind of, because we have some time here. I have the book right here in front of me, and what I appreciate is this, and kind of what you just said. A lot of this is mindset. The first 3 chapters talk about. I'm just going to give an overview of mindset, how to get kind of your head wrapped around it, how to get your family involved, how to get them thinking like you. And chapter 4 is where you get into it. The very first sentence on chapter 4, this is it. What you've been thinking about for a while, it's time to pull the trigger and get going. And then what I appreciate is then it breaks it down. The next chapter is the first 60 days. The first 60 days of your prepping, this is what you need to do. And so much of this is mindset. But those first 60 days. So think about right now, we're in March right now. 60 days puts you into May. You can get prepped. You can get your preps going in 60 days, which is great before summer. And it's real simple things, what to buy, like you said. Water. We've always talked about water is one of the most important things right off the bat. And I love how practical it is that way. First of all, it addresses what you've said several times already in this show, the mindset. Don't start. Your first thing shouldn't be thinking about how to make clothes out of animal skins. Your first goal should be getting your family and everyone kind of in your nuclear center set, and then launch from there. So the layout of this book is so easy and practical.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Forrest, you can't live on beef jerky and filtered water alone. I think it's Deuteronomy that says, he shall not liveth on beef jerky and filtered water alone. No, and
don't
that's
Deuteronomy, right?
Yeah, I always do that when I'm making a joke, because people that are biblically illiterate, they hear Deuteronomy and they think it probably is in there. Speaking of beef jerky and filtered water, a better way to go would be new manna.
Absolutely.
Long-term freeze-dried food. See what I did there?
That's awesome.
And it's bulk. Freeze-dried food lasts 25 yeas and counting. They just started keeping track of it 25 years ago, so they don't actually know the end date. Highly recommended, New Manna, NUMANNA.com. And if you use the coupon code PREP, lowercase, we found that out the hard way, you get 10% off. Well, so where was I going to go with that? I think Shelby had something for you.
No, I was just, a New Manna Foods fits right into those first 60 days. That's the shopping list, and that chapter is the easy stuff, the water filter, some freeze-dried food, some things the shopping. It's more the shopping rather than the skills, because skills, that's when it gets a little bit more practical and hands-on. So
yeah, and so, Forrest, I wanted to completely switch gears. You've alluded to PrepperNet, and I would like you to spend a few minutes and tell folks all about it, because we have a very selfish interest in this, Shelby and I, and no, it's not making money. Our selfish interest is, for years, people would ask us, the number one question, besides is Pow from the books real? And he is. The second most common question was, how do I meet preppers in my area, and how do I do it anonymously, and how do I do it successfully, and how do I meet kind of quality people who aren't just a bunch of lunatics? And for the longest time, Shelby and I didn't have an answer. And now with PrepperNet, we do have an answer. So you've given us an answer to a common question. Just describe PrepperNet for folks, because we are huge fans of it here at Prepping 2.0.
Well, I started PrepperNet because I wanted to meet individuals in my own city, my own community, and I couldn't. So I created a meetup in Charlotte, North Carolina. 6 individuals came, and that was the birth of PrepperNet. we have meetups in 93 cities, because one of the things that I guess I could say I preach to my members is being in a group is your most important prep. That's more important than anything else, is being in a group or a community of people, of like-minded people. And so preppers in general don't go out and advertise, hey, I'm a prepper, come and meet me so we can form a team or a group. So what we've done is I have city leaders in 93 cities. I train them. We just had a call, this last week about what was going on and how to reach out to the community better, because we got all these new toilet paper preppers, I call them, and they're wanting to learn. And so we have a venue where they can go at least once a month. Some of them are doing twice a month. Some of them are doing online because of COVID, depending on where you are. But most of them are meeting. That's our objective, is to meet. So you can meet Fred or, Jill that's right down the road from you, and you didn't even know they were a prepper. And all of a sudden, over time, y'all can build relationships and form a community, maybe even a survival group. And it's been amazing. We have over 60,000 members. If you go to meetup.com and search PrepperNet, you can find all the cities, and and this month, we're focusing on one of the things that you created. Yeah. So a month, we're actually we'll be in the middle of March when this comes out. We're doing Ham Month, and we want everyone to learn communications. If it's from talking on a little walkie-talkie, if it's getting your license, to buying an HF rig. But your PAM radio cards are going to be right into what we're going to be, providing, and telling people to purchase, to study and read. And we do this as a community as well. We have an online community that is the best in the nation, period. We've created some software that our community loves it. And we make it hard for people to get to it because we really want serious preppers. We don't want I call them, the fly in and post a link and go to another board. And it's building community, and it is going over very well. We've got off all social media. We're out there bringing people to our website, but we don't really communicate on our social media anymore. We're kind of underground, we can say, with our own social media that's just ours. So, but yeah, PrepperNet has been a blessing to me. And it's kind of been kind of a God thing, because people, and you guys know this, sometimes you got to go, am I crazy for thinking all these things could happen and being prepared? And you just got to meet other like-minded people, and that's takes all the craziness out of it.
I wanted folks to know it's preppernet.com, one word, preppernet.com, and that's the website. And then there's the free version, which is great, and there's a premium version, which is better. And I want to walk folks through the anonymity to this, because this was the big stumbling block. When I first heard about PrepperNet, I was concerned about the anonymity. So it goes like this. You go into preppernet.com, type in your zip code, and it tells you how many other people are PrepperNet members in your zip code. You can send an email to them, and it's not an email. It's sort of a computer generated one. And then those, I think I used the example, 8 people in your zip code get it. And you would say something like, hey, I'm new. Does anyone, want to meet, or whatever you want to do? See, you as the PrepperNet prepper are in control of how much information you give out. You're in control of whether you meet in person, blah, blah, blah. It's all up to you. And then those people can reply and say, yeah, let's meet. And then you say, let's go to the donut shop or whatever. And you don't even give a real name. You can use a secure email. You thought of all of this, Forrest, because you knew that our community was concerned about this kind of stuff. So did I get that basically right, or do you have any details to add? Because it's very important.
I became a prepper in 2000, and at the time I was in major web security, former webmaster of a large bank, and so security has always been on my mind. And even today I teach the members of PrepperNet privacy and security classes all the time on how to either disappear on the grid or use the grid and be anonymous.
Exactly. Well, we have a few minutes to talk about your other amazing switching gear topic.
You have so much free time, Forrest.
Well, you are the hardest working man in the preparedness industry, much like James Brown, rest in peace, was the hardest working man in music. So what is Sun Oven? And we have one, by the way, and we love it. So what is Sun Oven? Completely switching gears.
Well, Sun Oven is a company that's been around for over 30 years. They created a box with reflectors. The sun goes inside the chamber with a glass lid, and it creates a greenhouse effect inside the box. And it keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and it cooks food. It's the best food you ever have made. Anything you can cook in your oven in your house, you can cook in the Sun Oven. You can bake bread, it browns it. You can hydrate food. It's amazing to hydrate food in that because it does it slow. And you can put a turkey in there. You can put a chicken, and just a lot of times my family, I cut up onions and celery and potatoes, put a chicken in there, and 4 hours, 3 hours later, boom, we're eating it, and it's amazing. You can also, the great thing about Sun Oven as well, and the reason that I wanted to be involved and purchase it, is that it saves lives overseas. There are people in Africa and we'll say developing countries. They make little fires in their huts and their children, and they breathe all that smoke. And it's also depleting the forest as they do that. So if you look at like big hut villages in developing nations, there are very few trees around because they're cutting them down for energy. Well, the Sun Oven, you can just throw it out there. It's totally 100%, ran by the sun, and it's amazing food. And preppers love it. Homesteaders love it. RVers love it because, RV, just think you're going to cook something for the meal tonight, and it heats up your RV. Same thing in your house. Your stove heats your house up. Then your air conditioner has to cool it down. But in the RV, it makes a huge difference, the heat in there, because you want to go in the RV and cool off, and now you got the oven going on. So the Sun Oven is a great device, and I wanted to be a part of it, and have been now for I guess 2 years, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah, and Forrest, I wanted to give a personal endorsement really quickly. We have about another 30 seconds before we'll be leaving the regular show and going into the after show, where we continue this good conversation. Sun ovens are prominently featured in the forthcoming book that Shelby and I are doing, Food Preps 2.0, in which we talk about, among other topics, how to cook off-grid. And they're silent, they emit no odors, and most importantly, do not require any electricity or natural gas or anything like that. So you just got to have one if you're serious. So Shelby, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I just want to give people a quick reminder of Forrest Garvin's websites. First of all, forrestgarvin.com and also preppernet.com. But it sounds like all of them are collected at forrestgarvin.com. And I always like to leave everyone with this thought every week. Folks, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Have a great week, everyone.
See you in the after show.
You've been listening to Prepping 2.0 with authors Glenn Tate and Shelby Gallagher. All the information you've heard today, including all our previous shows, is online at prepping2-0.com. Find out more about Glenn's books at 299days.com and Shelby's books at agreatstate.com. Until next time, be smart, be safe, and be prepared.